You're back. For now, or?
Do I have a choice? I'm trying to keep us safe. Trying to keep my husband safe.
Maybe you should talk to him. Tell him what's on your mind. He seems so in love with you.
Jin's got so much love in him, it'd be selfish for me to hoard it all to myself. Only makes sense he'd want a family. Back on Earth, I grew up in a harsh place, shaped by people like Mercer. Always people like him. That look in my parents' eyes always stuck with me, a mix of warmth and fear of failing to protect the one thing that mattered the most. Hell, that animal you freed, it'll look after its own one day, and it'll know that pain.
I don't think it's thought that far. It's in its nature to produce offspring and protect its young. Like all parents, I guess.
Yeah, just dumb instinct and love. Jin can't imagine me failing. He loves me too much. And I don't know how to tell him I'm terrified. I should talk to him.
body count lottery rounded out to a solid and sturdy 30. 10 out of Haywood. Thanks to
from one person around here. That is how can I make this entertaining if I keep playing the same shit over and over and over again? So, I'm going to save when I have already saved. There's processing, what is that for?
The pilot made his announcement that the plane takes off on time at approximately 2:50 p.m. Everything is on schedule. Everything is going to go to plan. I look around at the closest flight to the city. I see an airplane is sitting in the back of the seat attached to the passenger. The seatbelt sign is still on, but I am not going to get up from my seat. I walk in the back of the plane towards the hostess, and she seems to be no notice. I read the name on her back. Before I see her, I take the folded note out of my pocket. She takes the note.
You okay, CC?
Without a second thought, drops it into her purse. No. This isn't right. I lean forward and whisper, Miss, you better look at that note. Now I've got her attention. She quickly takes the note out of her purse and reads it.
I'm coming.
I'm sure the look on her face is she scared? Annoyed at what she suspects is a stupid prank? Regardless, she follows me to the seat and sits beside me. She asks to see the bomb. So I open my briefcase just enough to expose the red cylinder, wires, insulation, and cylindrical battery.
I'm coming, stay.
As I calmly state my demands. $200,000, which is equivalent to around $1.2 million today. 4 parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve, and a fuel truck standing by at the airport in Seattle to fuel upon arrival. I watch as she makes her way to the front of the aircraft with a note and enters the cockpit. Whilst I wait for her return, I put on my sunglasses. After some time, Schaffner arrives beside me and confirms that she has relayed my demands to the pilot, William Scott. I knew Scott would contact air traffic control, and what I could comment is that air traffic control in Seattle-Tacoma, where we were due to land, immediately contacted both local and federal authorities. Donald Naira, the president of Northwest Orient Airlines, not wanting to have a bomb go off on one of his planes, had ordered everyone to fully cooperate with my demands, which meant that they were willing to pay my ransom. The FBI were informed of the situation and the decision of Naira. They organized the collection of the ransom money and ensured that the bills all contained the serial numbers starting with L and were issued from the 1963A or 1969 series. This would allow the FBI to easily trace the bills if I ever spent them. The serial number would quickly show that the bills originated from the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. The FBI quickly collected 10,000 unmarked $20 bills and photographed each of them to pay my $200,000 ransom and put the money in a bag. When Schaffner returned from the cockpit, she confirmed that Scott had informed my demands and that he contacted air traffic control at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. It turns out that the parachutes I requested would be military-issued parachutes. I calmly relayed to Schaffner that this would not be acceptable and that I would only be satisfied with civilian parachutes that have manually operated ripcords. Little did I know that the FBI were having trouble locating parachutes to suit my demands. I waited while they contacted a local skydiving school, brought some parachutes from them. I asked for the note back. No sense in leaving any more evidence than I have to. We are en route and nearly to Seattle. I order another bourbon and soda. Schaefer has been good to me, so I offer her my change when I pay my drinks bill, but she refuses. I offered to request meals for the crew when we landed in Seattle, but this offer was rejected by the crew. I looked out the window and recognized the terrain. I look at Schaefer and back out the window. Looks like Tacoma out there. The pilot, Scott, makes an announcement over the intercom to the passengers. He explains that we will be circling before landing because of a mechanical problem. I knew this was not true and that we were, in fact, waiting for confirmation that my ransom was ready and waiting. It's 5:39 p.m. The aircraft is finally landed. The sun has gone down. I'm standing by the cockpit, instructing Scott to taxi the plane to a more isolated area. I request that all the window shades are closed. I have no idea how brave the police will be, but I don't want to risk it. We are followed by the FBI, local authorities, and a fuel truck to our isolated location, and the aft staircase is lowered. I instruct Tina Munkla, another flight attendant, to stand by the stairs and await the delivery of my ransom. Sure enough, a gentleman dressed in civilian clothing approaches the plane carrying a bag. Scott has informed me that the Northwest Orient Seattle Operations Manager, Al Lee, will be making the drop. I wait inside as he hands Munkla what looks like a backpack and some parachutes. I wait for the gentleman to back away and for Munkla to re-enter the aircraft before I check that my ransom has been met. So far, everything has gone to plan. I have my $200,000 ransom and 4 parachutes. I have everything that I have asked for, so I instruct every civilian to exit the plane. I also ask that Flight Attendant Schaffner and Senior Flight Attendant Alice Hancock to leave the plane. I don't want any more people than I absolutely need on this aircraft. I am talking to the crew about the next stage of this flight. When we receive a request from a Federal Aviation Administration official, they want a face-to-face meeting with me on board the plane. I'm not stupid enough to take them up on their offer. I know they want to do more than talk, and there's little chance that they'd leave the plane without me in cuffs, or worse, in a body bag. So I refuse. No more talking. We must leave as soon as possible. I organize the flight path with the pilot, the co-pilot Radisat, Flight Attendant H.E. Henderson, and Flight Attendant Munkla. I tell them that we need to set a southwest course from Mexico City, and I provide them with the exact flight details. We need to fly at approximately 100 knots, 185 kilometers per hour, and at a maximum altitude of 10,000 feet. The cabin would remain depressurized, as you can breathe at this altitude, and the aft staircase would need to remain open. We have a problem, though. Radisat raises a valid point that the plane would not be able to maintain that flight path without refueling again en route. I hadn't planned on this, but it's okay. I can adjust. We decide that the plane will stop in Nevada to refuel. I am aware that time is ticking, and we are not ready to take off yet. The longer we stay, the more dangerous the situation becomes for me. I'm informed that the tanker sent to refuel the plane has a vapor lock with a pumping mechanism. The only way to get enough fuel for the journey is for another tanker to be sent. I'm nervous. Is this a trick by the police? I have no choice though, and I reluctantly agree, watching the clock. The staircase is open and extended, and we are ready to take off. But a message from Northwest Home Office comes into the cockpit. They are objecting to us taking off with the staircase down, stating that it would be unsafe. I decide that it is better to get in the air rather than argue. I order the crew to pull up the staircase, and we head to the runway. It's 7:40 p.m. I know that a fighter plane has been sent up in the air with us. I can't see it, but I'm positive it's out there. It doesn't matter though. I'm not going to Mexico like I told the crew. No, I have a better plan. What I don't know at this stage is that there's a total of 5 fighter planes trailing the Boeing 727, keeping an eye on us from above, below, and behind. I order all the crew to enter the cockpit and lock the door. As I tie the bag of money to my waist, I see Munkla look at me one last time before she closes the cockpit door. I know she's trying to burn my image into her mind. I ready myself. The time is close. I have to make sure that I time this perfectly. It's 8 p.m. I make my way to the back of the aircraft and I open the aft staircase. Through the intercom, I hear the crew ask if I need assistance. I curtly refuse. No. It started to rain as we were in flight, and now the storm is in full swing. I look out into the darkness. terrified of the idea of leaping out into this void. But this was always the plan. I have to. The wind is howling and rips around me to the point that it's almost deafening. It's now or never. I must jump. For over 45 years, the FBI has continued an active investigation into the identity of D.B. Cooper and his whereabouts. It is uncertain whether Cooper even survived his jump into the darkness that night, but many have theorized about who he really is, why he did what he did, and what actually happened. In the 1970s, air travel security was quite different, and you did not have to provide an ID to buy a ticket to travel by plane between states. This is why Cooper was able to give a false name and obtain a flight ticket without anyone questioning him. The exact location of Cooper's extraordinary jump out of the aircraft is still unknown. Despite the trailing fighter planes, with the entire flight crew locked in the cockpit, there were no witnesses to the exact time and location of the jump, just the upward tail motion of the aircraft. This means that the FBI had to use the limited information they had to determine a search area, which some have since suggested was actually the wrong location. The only bills that had been recovered from the ransom were found by an 8-year-old boy in 1980 when he was vacationing with his family on the Columbia River, about 9 miles south of Vancouver, Washington. He found a decaying package that contained $5,800 in total. The serial numbers matched those from Cooper's ransom, and all the bills were $20 bills. There have been over 800 suspects considered for this case, but a lack of hard evidence meant none of them could be charged or prosecuted. There are still many different theories about who D.B. Cooper really was and how he got away from the crime scene, with several people even claiming to be the mysterious hijacker, but nothing has ever been definitively proven. In July 2016, the case was officially suspended by the FBI.
It's early in the morning on April 15th, 1912. It's dark and quiet as I stand on the empty bridge of a ship that has been under my command for only a few days. I look down as water begins to lap against my feet. This will be the end of my story, because I am the captain of the Titanic. My name is Edward John Smith, and I was born far from the sea in Hanley, Staffordshire, England. Being an industrious and most driven young man, I travelled to the seaport of Liverpool and achieved my first major goal in life, attaining an apprenticeship on a vessel, thus beginning my life as a seaman. A sailor's life came naturally to me, and by the age of 30, I was already working for the famed White Star Line, one of the most prominent shipping lines in the world, which carried cargo and passengers across the globe. I was able to climb the ranks quickly, going from a lowly fourth officer to command of my own ship in just 7 years. The White Star Line must have had no trouble recognizing my aptitude, because they soon gave me command of the RMS Majestic. She was a prize of the fleet that had just several years earlier held the record for fastest crossing of the Atlantic, making the voyage in an astoundingly quick 6 days. Being a true Englishman, I joined the Royal Naval Reserve, and when the border states rebelled and fresh troops needed transport to the south of Africa, I and the Majestic were there to take up the cause, and we completed our mission without any complications. Having done my duty and been awarded medals for my service, I returned to my career as a captain of the White Star Line's Premier Ocean Liners. There wasn't a better group of sailors in the world than my fellow captains of the White Star Line, but a rumour must have begun to spread about me, and I soon developed a reputation for fast and safe sailing. Soon, there were a number of prominent passengers who would only make the transatlantic voyage if they could be assured that I would capture their vessel. That same rumour must have reached the boardroom of the White Star Line, as soon I was given the illustrious role of commanding all of the company's newest and grandest ships in their maiden voyages, a job I happily performed for several years. With all of my experiences at the helm of the line's biggest ocean liners, it was no surprise when in 1911 I was asked to command what would be the newest ship in the world, the Olympic. After another successful maiden voyage, we made a number of smooth sailings across the Atlantic. Of course, there was the one small circumstance where we somewhat collided with another ship. The courts may have ruled that the other vessel bore no responsibility, but it was posited in the trial by our defense that perhaps the Olympics' unprecedented size had displaced such an enormous amount of water that it sucked the other ship into our path, a theory I happen to agree with. And the entire incident would never have happened had they not been sailing dangerously close to us. Regardless of the outcome of the trial, the White Star Line clearly stood with me and saw through the attempts at making me a scapegoat. Otherwise, they would not have presented me with what would be the crowning achievement of my career: command of the largest and most magnificent ship ever put to sea, the RMS Titanic. Repairs to the Olympic from that small incident pushed back our maiden voyage as parts were pulled from the still under construction Titanic to fix the Olympic. Though we were delayed from our original start date on March the 20th, we took to the sea on April the 10th without issue, en route from Southampton to New York, carrying over 1,360 passengers and 908 crew. The first 4 days of our voyage went exactly as planned, and it was only on the 5th that we started receiving some warnings about drifting ice. I obviously take any warnings about potential hazards very seriously, but chose not to reduce our speed, as the White Star Line had intended to show that the Titanic was not only the largest and most luxurious ship in the world, but one of the quickest as well. And besides, my crew contained some of the best lookouts I had ever had the pleasure of knowing. They'd be able to spot any ice with the potential to damage our ship with more than enough time for us to adjust course. I retired to my quarters on the night of the 14th, confident in my ship, my crew, and myself. I am awoken by the crash at 11:40 p.m. My first officer rushes in and tells me, "Sir, we've collided with an iceberg." I quickly get up and make my way to the bridge. The crew bombards me with reports. The ship has been seriously damaged. I summon the ship's designer, Thomas Andrews, who had joined us on the inaugural voyage of his masterpiece. We assess the damage, and I ask him what the potential is for repair, but he stops me before I can even set a plan in motion. 5 of the ship's watertight compartments have been breached, he tells me. It's too much. The Titanic will sink in less than 3 hours. I can hardly believe what I'm hearing. The Titanic is the most advanced vessel to ever take to the seas, and I'm the most experienced captain alive. No one has sailed more of the massive ocean liners than myself. This isn't possible. I quickly do the math in my head. The Titanic left England significantly under capacity, but there's still only enough lifeboats for roughly half the passengers and crew. If the ship went down, over 1,000 people on board would drown or freeze in the open sea. I order the passengers and crew to the deck, but I begin to feel as if I'm in a daze. I start to make my own way to the deck, but have no memory of the journey, and when I arrive, there's somehow a megaphone in my hand. I shout some orders. I don't even remember the words, but I remember the faces. Some of the passengers look at me with hope, feeling some security now that their captain has appeared, while others look at me with fear, and dare I say, even appear to be blaming me. I can no longer bear to watch the lifeboats being lowered into the water, when I know there won't be enough. I begin to wander the ship. My officers find me and ask if I would give the order to abandon ship. I can't bring myself to say the words. They seem frustrated with my inaction and run off to presumably do what they can in this hopeless situation. The minutes tick by, and I feel the deck shifting beneath my feet to a terrifying angle as the ship takes on more and more water. I make my way to the radio room, where the operators are still bravely sending out distress messages, and inspired by their duty, I'm finally able to tell them and any other crew I come across that they've done their best. But now is the time to abandon the ship. It's every man for himself. I find myself back where I have felt most comfortable and in control over these many years. The bridge. I look at my watch. 2:10 a.m. There's not much time left. The lights go out. The salt water must be shorting out the power. Water is lapping at my feet. As a sailor, I always knew it might end like this, but I never believed that one of my ships could go down. We're taking on more and more water as the ship's compartment fill. It won't be long now. The bridge begins to slip beneath the dark sea, and so too do I.
You know my name, for you have whispered it in fear for centuries, mindful of the horrors I carved upon history itself. Vlad III, Dracula, son of the dragon, and I will have my throne. My nation will be free at any cost, and I will bow the knee to no man, Hungarian or Turk, emperor or sultan. My story begins with my father, an ambitious man who fought for many years to take his rightful place as the ruler of Wakalia, a nation in what is today southern Romania, stuck between the Kingdom of Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. Our nation was frequently nothing more than a political tool to be wielded by one side against the other. After having to flee from Hungarian forces, Sultan Mehmed II granted my father the support of a small army with which to retake the Wakalian throne. There was but one condition. Myself and my brother Radu would be left behind as royal hostages, and my father was to pay yearly tribute to the Ottomans, swearing fealty to their rule. With their aid, my father retook the throne, and once more my family ruled, albeit over a land with no true independence, beholden to powers far greater than itself. Predictably, my father would go on to betray the Turks in 1440, when the European powers gathered together to try to stop the Ottoman Empire's expansion into Central Europe. Despite some initial successes, unfortunately for my father, he was inevitably forced into a peace with a greater power, and sick of my father's double-crossing, Lord Hyundai at last invaded Wakalia, chasing my father from the throne and killing him. My eldest brother.
Imagine you and some of your best buddies are traveling by plane to what you think will be a weekend to remember. Suddenly, you experience some bad turbulence, but it's nothing you haven't felt before. Then, it gets prison, the final frontier. For some, a place where they end their day. With China and India gridlocked over their border disputes, a peaceful resolution isn't in sight. In fact, both nations are bolstering their military presence, which can easily spill over into an all-out war. If these nuclear superpowers clash, the military strength of both nations will decide the extent of the conflict. So which nation has a stronger army, China or India? We'll compare the two countries side by side, starting with India. India's military strength can be determined based on many metrics, but its land forces are
Fuck off, Jordan. Wow, you're a fucking fool. What'd you get? sequel to Samaritan?
According to the Economic Times, Samaritan 2 feed is happening as Amazon MGM Studios is in the process of making the action film. Sylvester Stallone will also return. According to Wikipedia, Samaritan is a 2022 American superhero film directed by Julius Avery and written by Brad Eaton,